Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Nomad Experts podcast by Commute. Today, we're going to answer the question, does being a digital nomad make you happier? This topic came up because Marisa found I think it was an Instagram reel that you sent over to me.
Yep.
Had a shocking statistic in it that I still don't quite believe. And I'm not exactly sure where the number came from. It's too high. It's too strong of a case to be a digital nomad. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to let you take over and explain what you saw in that Instagram reel. You can also share it in the show notes as well. Yeah. But we've also, as we started going off on our own and doing some research into it, I'm starting to buy that number more and more and more because I've started adding more and more things to the list of reasons I think being a digital nomad makes me happier. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it is legit. But without further ado, let me kick it to you and you can explain to the audience why this topic came about and what this crazy statistic is.
Yes, we always take Instagram with a grain of salt, but I think there's some truth to this one as well. So basically, I came across this post, and it actually wasn't talking about digital nomad life specifically as it relates to the way we talk about digital nomads and we're giving a remote job and living in anywhere. But specifically, it was talking about people who relocated from an unhappy place or situation or circumstance could be twice as happy, so 200% happier than they were in their original location. So this one was talking about, specifically it gave the example of like moving from Moldova from this like kind of Soviet Union place to Copenhagen, which is known to be a little bit happier of a country, or an impressed place in Southeast Asia to Canada, which has also been known to have happy people. So some other examples it gave, basically it was saying within 1 year, people's happiness level doubled. That's an insane amount. And as I was listening to this, I thought to myself, the same as Jeff was saying, like, I don't know, it's been kind of true in my experience of nomad life of sometimes just getting to a new place, just being happier, feeling better. So why is this, right? And one of the examples this Instagram post gave was not even necessarily moving countries, which it also gave that example, but moving zip codes within the US. And it was saying, as an example, someone who moved from Kentucky, which has a life expectancy 22 years. That is an insane number, shorter than the average life expectancy if you were to live in Boulder, Colorado. 22 years is insane. And there could be a lot of reasons for that, right? But it was saying in Boulder specifically, people are walking more. There's maybe healthier food. They're in nature more. Kentucky also has a lot of nature. Maybe there's like not walking around. So I don't know. Take this with a grain of salt of what you're hearing here. I always try to remind myself of that with Instagram. But as Jeff and I were talking about this, because like this is crazy, and it just reminds me of nomad life, of being able to say like, maybe I don't like this country or place or situation, and I want to move here where I just feel better. So it got us thinking, like, does living as a digital nomad make us happier? And anecdotally, a lot of our friends as well. And why that might be for us specifically. So instead of just saying like, here's this massive statistic, if you've listened to the podcast in a while, Jeff and I like to write up our own reasons why we think this might be true. And we don't know the other one's reasons. We like to give each of us give kind of surprising reasons why we think this has been true for ourselves, and see where they overlap, where they're different, and kind of roll from there. But I would say in short, the answer to me is yes, living as a digital nomad can make you happier because you can go explore the world, choose different places, and we're going to explain why that might be. I think there's a lot of reasons to that, and we'll kind of like get into the conversations along the way. So Jeff, anything to add before we start going back and forth on the reasons that we've chosen here as a surprise to each other?
Thinking back to the period before I was digital nomad and after.
Yeah.
It was an absolute sea change in emotion. I remember it's like skipping through the streets of Colombia. It's just like, oh my God, I feel free for the first time. It's like it's like this burden was removed. It was more like there's a part of me that I didn't know was there, and then it just got added. I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing. I mean, more and more I think about that, maybe that doubling of happiness, that could be true. And that's just for, as far as I know with that statistic you shared, moving from one place to another, like permanently moving, not living as a digital nomad. So changing your environment can double it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much changing your environment in our case.
Every month, every week, every
year.
year.
Yeah, exactly, can contribute to that. But Yeah, let's dive into the list and see if we can prove this.
Yeah. One other sort of like intro statement I want to say, and then I want to jump into the list too, that something you just said reminded me was I think a lot of people, like myself included, so I only ever lived in the US before living as a digital nomad, before like really popping off and exploring like all different continents, all different places. So if you've only lived, like there's a lot of people who maybe have never left their hometown or never left their state or never left their country or never lived abroad, right? And I think that you kind of get used to a level of happiness of what you like. You're like, this is the best my life could be. Maybe you're a little unhappier some days or weeks or months, or you're going through some stuff, but you kind of feel like you know the limit of like, this is my happiness. But like maybe if you move to another environment that you've never been to, it opens up this whole other world for you of like, it can be this good. And I think that's like, there's a lot of parts that lead up to that we can talk about. But I want to share as well, like if you've never tried it, I think a lot of people, it's like you don't know what you don't know of what's even available to you in terms of your happiness level. So that's something I've discovered along the way living in different places. And there might be a lot of reasons for that, which we'll jump into. So do you want to share your number one to start?
Yeah, my number one is actually kind of an indirect type of thing, indirect reason why you might be happier. And I'm pretty sure it's not on your list. It's kind of random. Ooh. I'm going to argue that you walk more. And I think that there's a lot of studies out there that says just walking 30 minutes a day does make you happier. There's a lot behind just walking. It seems really, really simple and kind of stupid, but there's a lot behind it. Like when you're walking, it just gives your brain like this low level thing to focus on as opposed to just kind of sitting somewhere and like, you know, the idea is it's like kind of meditative. When you want to do something, it's meditative. It's just like whittling wood or stitching or something like that. It's like a low level attention that just keeps your mind focused on one thing just enough so you don't start traveling to different places. You don't start thinking about random stuff. And then on top of that, you get the physical health with walking all the time. You get the fresh air and you get sunlight. So there's so much to it. And I just looking at my phone, like if I look at the steps per month, I can easily identify the months where I was traveling the most. Regardless of where you're going, you're automatically going to assume, oh, that's maybe like a big city type of thing, right? Like you have to walk places, so you're going to be on foot all the time. But it's not necessarily true either, because when I look at some of the places, like when we were in Bolivia, which is about as one of the more remote places I've lived in, we still went on daily walks all the time. Like just walking down the street, walking around those crazy freaking canyons and out of breath all the time. It's just, for whatever reason, when I'm a digital nomad, I am walking way, way, way more. And I know like physically and mentally that does a ton for me. And it does a ton for a lot of other people too.
Yeah.
So
actually,
tell me
it was on
your
my
list. Shut up.
Yes, Jeff.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's a huge one. So just to kind of add to that, I think if you look at a lot of the most popular digital nomad locations, they're all places where you can absolutely walk everywhere. I would say with the exception of Bali, which seems like it should be a walking place, but like there's no sidewalks and you have to ride a scooter. It's actually really hard to walk there. But other than that, pretty much I would say at least everywhere is like you don't need a car. I would say that's one of the biggest parts. And the more you talk to people who've nomaded for a while and then want to stop, I know a lot of people, this is a little bit US centric for a second, but a lot of our friends who have like lived as nomads for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and want to maybe go back to the States and have a base, they're like, I don't know where to go. I don't want to be in maybe New York City, but nowhere else is walkable. Like almost no cities in the US are very walkable. There's an exception to a few, but most places that are like hot digital nomad locations are ones that you can walk everywhere and that you absolutely don't need to own a car or have a car. So for me, I'm also someone like no matter where I am, like I try to walk like 10,000 plus steps every single day. So I can't necessarily see the difference of me traveling versus not because I make myself. But I would say when I'm in somewhere like Playa del Carmen, for example, where like you can pretty much from one end to the city of the other is like a 20-minute, 30-minute top walk, but mostly you're 10, 15 minutes from anywhere you need to go walking. So instead of being like, okay, I have to go out on my daily walk now, it's like I'm walking to a cafe, I'm walking to the gym, I'm walking to the beach, and I get those 10,000 steps really naturally versus like, oh, I gotta force myself in this city to go for a walk or do something. So to me, living in a walkable city in a walkable town even is like huge impact on my own happiness as well. And when I think about in Costa Rica, the little town that I like to go to in Las Catalinas, it was designed to be a walkable town. Like you don't need a car. Most of the roads around you actually can't get to by car. Everything you need is in walking distance. There's like hikes right there. I walk the beach every day. And to me, it's just a huge part of like feeling good. And if you think about like, I mean, we're digital nomads now, but if you think about nomadic people, they literally had to like walk around from place to place to find water, find food, find whatever. So it's kind of like we're living, when you're in a walkable place, you're living as like humans were meant to. And I think your body just feels better. So I have a lot to say about that. But yes,
no, it's great.
Check to walking.
And I love that point that you brought up, that you're walking with a destination in mind, with a goal.
Yeah, just kind of
it's
like
just part of your
your
natural
life.
daily. Yeah, you're not actually. But in the meantime, you're walking 10,000 steps a day or so, and just getting from place to place usually. And that 10,000 steps, guys, is maybe 5 or 6 miles. You burn 80 calories per mile roughly. That's an extra 400 calories a day times a week. That's about a pound of fat a week. Like it's a lot.
Calculations.
It's like super. I mean, it's incredible, and it's just walking somewhere. You're not really doing a lot.
And there's so much about like
so much
just good ideas come when you're walking. Yeah. You release stress, like so many things. But it's interesting. I want to make this distinction between working remotely and also living in a place where you naturally are getting steps. Because so I used to live in New York City. And this is really, I guess I probably had just started learning about like steps and whatever. And naturally, like without trying to go for a walk or go to the gym or do anything, I probably got, I don't know, somewhere between 6,000-7,000 steps a day, just kind of going about my life in New York, walking to, just kind of walking everywhere to and from a bus stop, whatever. And then I worked for that same company out in Los Angeles where I just worked from home. And I was so unused to it. I remember like I had a little step tracker, or like whatever Fitbit thing back in the day. And at the end of my first week, I realized I had taken it was 580 steps or something by the end of the day before I'd okay, it's time to go to the gym or go work out or go take a walk. I moved nowhere. It's a very sedentary lifestyle. So again, if you're thinking if I just work from home or if I get this job, am I going to be sedentary? Am I not going to move anywhere? Living in a destination, moving to a place, as it was saying, whether it's Boulder, Colorado in the US or Playa del Carmen or Chiang Mai in Thailand or, Bolivia, wherever you want to be, it's you pick a place where you can really walk around and you don't need a car to get from place to place. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting parts and as Jeff and I we're talking about this episode as well. We're is this about being happy? Is it about being healthy? And they really kind of go hand in hand. So I think there's a lot about walking that it makes you healthier and happier. So this one's kind of a win-win in both.
We're going to have to cut the walking thing because I feel like there's I got so much to say about it.
We could go forever, but you get it.
We can't. You get the idea. You get the idea. We can't do that.
Yes, we'll move on to number 2.
Good. So you got number 2.
Okay, so this one on my list, so I'm going to move walking off my list because I've got a bunch more that I was trying to say, so we'll remove the overlaps. But the first one that I had on my list, and this is me personally, but I'll then draw it out to you listening as well. For me, I'm happier when I am in a tropical beach. If you've listened to the podcast, you know this about me. And again, if you're I fucking hate the sand, I hate I talk to a lot of people who ask me about destinations. I forget, I was talking to this couple the other day. They were maybe in their late 50s looking for a remote job and ready to move somewhere else. They were asking me about locations. And the guy was I want to be near water, but I don't have to get in the water. And I really dislike the heat. I was okay, well, every location I you're going to hate, but here's maybe Portugal is for you. Go to Lisbon, So I just want to caveat this with I guess the overall here is you can move to an environment where you really thrive and so whether that's you want to be in a log cabin in the mountains, or you want to be at a big lake, or you love to live by a river, or I don't know, what am I missing? You like sand dunes or rice fields or whatever it is that you you get to choose. So for me, that happens to be a very warm tropical beach with blue water and white sand, and I can go live there. So I am just when I land in these places, I just feel exponentially happier, really and truly. I ask any one of my friends, anyone who's been with me, if you see me at the beach versus in a big city, and even I compare a tropical beach for me versus a Cape Town, South Africa beach, or Maine at the beach. I don't like the cold, dark waters. I want palm trees and white sand, and I'm a happy person. So the point of this is whatever environment calls to you, you can move to. There's also a lot of science about living near bodies of water. About we could go on to the side. I feel like Jeff and I are both like high level, and also like you want to get into the science, we will. There's a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard of like negative ions that are released in the air from moving water that literally make you healthier by breathing in these like particles in the air. So there's a lot of scientific data that's saying like people who live by a beach or like by a waterfall or by a moving body of water are actually a lot healthier and happier than anyone else in the world. So again, like there's so much statistics about you can like prove anything, but people by the water, I think, are happier. People by the beach, I think, are happier. But anyway, any thoughts on just kind of like getting to choose your environment, I would say, is the overall thing here.
Well, on the bodies of water, there's a lot behind what you're saying. It's actually a whole scientific study called blue spaces. And
I knew you knew something about it. Like, I feel like we always know different things, but what is your study that you know?
Yeah, a blue space is just like an area dominated by surface water bodies or water courses, anything like that. So like parks, gardens, beaches, all that kind of stuff. And there's just so much science behind it. I mean, I can look up stats, but it's kind of all over the place with this one. But blue spaces basically mean that if you're near some sort of body of water, it's like a meaningful part of your life and you can see it, you're just naturally happier for whatever reason. I'd have to dig into the why, but it's weird that you bring this up because I was just on Instagram just fucking around at lunch, just kind of zoning out, and a thing on blue spaces came up, and this study was saying that how it reduces your cortisol levels and decreases your stress just to be near water. Which is so strange. I don't know. I'm going to have to dig into this more because I'm so curious.
I'm curious if you find why. I feel like I've asked that question a lot and I don't know if anyone like really knows the answer. There's like all sorts of hypotheses because again, there's like these negative ions, but that's more in moving water, not like a pond that sits still. But there's something about, I don't know if it's like our bodies are made of water, whatever it is. There's something about looking at water, being by water. Getting in water is a whole different thing that like makes you healthier, but there's whatever it is, whatever magical, whether it's some woo or scientific, being by bodies of water, and everyone kind of likes different bodies of water. But I also think like, I don't know, I love little beach towns because I feel like people also sort of like rise with the sun and watch sunset on the beach and set with the sun, and like it just has like a more active lifestyle. There's something healthy about getting in the water. Like there's a lot of science to it that I think, I don't know, some people, I think to some extent we know, and some extent it's still sort of a mystery, but yeah, there's something to bodies of water. And as an example, where I'm from in Atlanta, in the US, it's one of the only major cities that has zero bodies of water. I mean, there's like a little river, but it's one of the only cities that wasn't made on like either an ocean or like a major big river or a lake or like some body of water. And for me, it's like always been, it's like my family's here. Like I love it because, it's a home base of some sorts to me, but it's like, it's really missing a body of water. And I'm happier when I'm looking out at water for sure.
I don't know what it is behind it. I don't know what the science is, but you feel it. It's soothing. You're just around it. It feels good.
Yeah.
I was just off on vacation last week in Rhode Island, and my buddy's house was right next to a beach there. And he's like, do you want to walk to the beach? And automatically my brain's like, fuck, sand? No, I hate beaches.
You hate sand.
And then I got there, and I'm like, I hate sand. I can't stand it. It was in my shorts today, and like, I kept pulling out my phone, and sand was getting all over my desk. And I'm, what is going on? Where's the sand coming from? Then
I'm like, I've had a good day if there's sand coming out of my phone.
God, I don't want it anywhere near me. I think Diego's the same way, too. We can commiserate over sand together. But
so what body of water do you like?
Either way. Well, honestly, it just took me getting in because I go to the beach and I'm like, I'm not getting in. My buddy says, you got to get in. Go get in the water. I got in the water and I'm like, this is great. I feel fantastic. I feel rejuvenated. I feel alive. I feel relaxed. Something just like nature's Xanax. I don't know what it is. What it is. Maybe I just want the magic. Maybe I don't need to know what it is. Just want it to be like Christmas, whatever. It just feels good. Don't think about it too much.
But just trust it.
there's something to it. Yeah. Wait, so was your number 2 being near bodies of water? Was that how we got to this?
Well, mine was like being near a tropical beach, and therefore that was my happiness, and extrapolating it was like choosing whatever kind of geographical environment you feel best in. And I guess by default, we kind of said like everyone sort of feels better by water. But there's also a lot, and this is the last thing I'll have to say, because I feel like all these topics, like we could just go off on forever. But as someone who's an empath, if you're listening to this and you kind of take on the energy or emotions of like other people surrounding you or the world around you, there's a lot of, and again, I don't know the exact science to it. So again, just sort of trust the magic, as Jeff is saying. But there's kind of proof of like, if you can get into an ocean or some sort of body of water, and then kind of like least case scenario, a shower, like some sort of water actually sort of like releases the emotions that are like sort of bubbling up inside of you that have come, like the energy that you take on from other places. Getting in a body of water sort of releases that. So I wonder if that's part of the magic that you're talking about as well. When you get in the ocean, it's just like, I don't know, but I'm just better. So having that around, I think, can make you happier. But yeah, so bodies of water.
I think I've reached my woo threshold on that one. We're damn close. Well, I'll allow
That's why we're both here. Perfect. All right. Well, what's next on your list?
My next one is minimalism. As a digital nomad, you're like by default forced to minimize the amount of shit that you have. You just don't have space for it. You're moving around, you have space in your suitcase. You're not furnishing these apartments that you're renting, obviously. And I'm a firm believer that less stuff equals less stress. The more that you want to buy stuff, the more you have to think about that stuff and make it like consume some portion of your brain. And then there's responsibility attached to buying stuff. I had to buy a new car recently because I'm not in a walkable city, which makes me less happy, which means I have to have a car, which makes me less happy because I have to pay insurance and registration, and new tires when they go bald, and new brakes because they just fucking broke for the 18th time. So maintenance of having stuff is a pain in the ass. Having too much choice in life, I think, can be a huge pain in the ass as well. I've got 87 shirts to choose from, and you're like, how many shirts do I really like to wear? I like 6 shirts. So only keep 6 shirts. You just minimize your decision making. You minimize your stress. Less stuff. It just gives you more time to focus on the here and now, the cool stuff that you're doing, especially as a digital nomad. Going to that beach and doing a morning workout or whatever's like super good for you, as opposed to things that aren't super good for you, like choosing which of the 28 pairs of shoes you want to wear that morning.
This is an interesting one. I did not have it on my list, so I'm really glad that you have it on yours, but I don't know why I wasn't thinking of it today, but I've thought about that many times. We've talked about it some on the podcast before. So I'll give you my cheesy cliche quote of the day for this one that says, your outer world is a reflection of your inner reality. So I know like when a lot of people live at home, you just kind of acquire stuff and you have more clothes, and when you're not living in a suitcase, you have a whole closet of things and you can order things on Amazon, and your home just somehow gets like filled with more clutter. But as Jeff was saying, like when you live as a nomad, for the two of us mostly, we take like a carry-on and a backpack. So you only have so many choices to make. It doesn't clutter up your place. You're living usually in an Airbnb where someone else has furnished it, and it's just the simple things. It's not like ordering all of these things that can like become a mess. So it makes a big difference of like not just on your, I guess it's both like environment of the apartment or home where you're living, and also, as Jeff said, just like having the choices. You're like, all right, well, I've only got 10 shirts to choose from, so this is the one today, instead of like, here's 3,242 options to choose from, and it kind of just gets mentally cluttered. So yeah, I always think like, I always try to remind myself when I get home from traveling that I'm like, okay, I don't need that much stuff. Like, don't order stuff, don't buy stuff. Like, I don't need anything. And then I'm like, oh, but I just want this. And I just like kind of keep adding. I'm like, fuck. But when I travel, I really don't do that. So that's a good one. I like it.
Okay, so bring us to the next one.
Okay, the next one, hopefully this can be a little bit shorter because it kind of adds on to a lot of what we talked about in my first one. But the next one on my list was just being around nature in general. So before it was choosing just like the specific, like kind of geographic temperament, is that the right word? Or the, whatever it is. Yeah, like the sort of just whatever beach, mountain thing that you like. But this one is just the ability to get in nature in general. So maybe like if I think about, I lived in New York City for like 5 years, and I lived in LA for 2 years. In LA, I guess I could get out to the beach and go hiking in the mountains. But when I lived in New York, I really just was like surrounded by city all the time. When I'm in Atlanta, like I can get out in parks and stuff, but I'm really just kind of like in a city type environment. And for me, I think nature just makes me happier. There's a lot of science about nature being healing, whether you're in the forest, around trees, like out of just kind of big populations of people. So I love that being a digital nomad gives you the ability to like go out and live in places that have more nature. Or maybe if you like the city too, it's like you spend a month or two in the city and then you go get your nature fix for a month and sort of like deplete all the craziness and stress and energy that you acquired. You deplete that and then you like go back to your city again. So it just sort of gives you the freedom to, I think there's a healthiness and a happiness that nature gives to us. And living as a digital nomad gives you the freedom to expose yourself to that, to choose it when you want and need it.
What were some of the places you think of just top of your head that you went to that gave you that sensation?
Oh my gosh. The first one that we always share, like whatever comes to mind first is like the most important one. But the first one that came to mind was in Bulgaria, living in Bansko for the summer. It is a place where you arrive there. So it's kind of like a ski town. I guess it's a ski town in the winter, but in the summer, it's very much, if you think about a lot, actually like kind of Colorado sort of areas, but it's just tons of pine trees in the air. Like you walk outside, you know that feeling where you're just like, I am breathing fresh air. It just felt so fresh. And it's like this little town, but like any direction you go, there's like first there's like this little river that runs right through the city, and it's built, I say city, town, whatever you want to call it, and it's beautifully integrated with like, I don't know how to explain it, like no matter where you are, you're almost always by this river that runs through the sidewalks in the towns. So there's that running water aspect, and then everywhere you go, it's like in 10 minutes in any direction, you're like in the pine trees, hiking in nature. There's like 10 lakes around. You just, I don't know, it just feels like I am in nature. So that was the first one. And the second one that comes, I mean, there's anytime I'm kind of by the beach, I feel that way too. So Costa Rica is a big one. I feel like I'm sort of indoor, outdoor all the time. Bali for me are kind of like surrounded by rice fields and just sort of like more integrated into nature, outdoors a lot. There's a lot. Yeah. What comes to mind for you when you think of that?
I don't think a ton pops up. I'm so much more of a city person and I don't generally go out on some of those trips. I guess that most significant one comes to mind for me was the 3 waterfalls that I went to in Mexico. So we went rappelling over the waterfalls and camped out there. That's one of those things where it's just like, I don't usually think to do these kind of things, but then when I get dragged along to do it, I love it. Just for the audience, we went and camped in this place in COVID 2020, and they had just reopened. We were like the first people they reopened to. And we like rappelled over a few waterfalls, pretty high. It's like 40 meters, 120 feet or something. So it was scary as hell going down that one. And then another one we did some rock jumping off of. It was really exhilarating. Some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen in my life. And it was just a couple hours outside of town. Like I would never, ever go there if I were just on vacation or something. It was so far out of the way from everything that I would never be able to see those kind of places. So that's like an added
and I think
bonus.
for you, what about like living in Cape Town? I feel like when I lived there, it's like every other day. I feel like I was like you're like in mountains or 10 steps away, like anywhere you go, you're sort of like above the city and the most beautiful, like you're looking out the ocean and sunsets and mountains, and it's just no matter where you walk there, you have a view of all of it. I feel like it's I would say it's actually probably one of the best cities if you like city and also surrounded by nature. I would say that's one of the best options you can find.
It's wild. Like everything is just right in your backyard. Like you said, you can see it no matter where you are. And it's like you wake up that morning, I want to go on XYZ trail, and it's a 15-minute drive to
or
the
like
start of
swimming with seals or kayaking or like anything you want to do. It's just something like if you want to go hang gliding above the town, like it's all right there.
That's Kirsten Bosch garden.
You got the botanical gardens there.
Yeah, that was beautiful. We went there twice. That was great.
Yeah. And it was probably no farther than 10-15 minutes from where you were living.
Something like that. Yeah, it's just an Uber drive away. It's no big deal.
Yeah. So close. So anyway, that's my sort of nature spiel for the day. What's next on your list?
We got 2 nature ones out of you.
The first.
Got the bodies of water. We got
2.
nature. Yeah. Walking.
Makes you happier.
Okay, so next one is, as a digital nomad, you eliminate a lot of routine and monotony. I think some people will argue that routine and monotony is good for them, but I'm going to argue against that. I think to a certain extent, you need change. You need some sort of mixing up for a few different reasons. For one, I think your brain learns from challenges, from these changes in your daily routine. Yeah. And I think you need to like rewire that plasticity and challenge your brain with new stuff all the time. I think there's a lot of studies going into that too, like along the lines of dementia, Alzheimer's, folks that are constantly challenging the status quo of their brain tend to have healthier brains in the long run once they reach their 70s, 80s, 90s, that kind of thing. So I think that's super important. Even if you are one of those people that do love having their routine and the comfort of lack of change, I think it is worth considering that it might push you out of your comfort zone a little bit, but it really is healthy for your brain to do these types of things. So as an example, when you're traveling as a digital nomad, you have to figure out challenges all the time. You have to figure out how do I get to an airport? How do I navigate the language? How do I figure out where to go shopping? How do I find a gym? All this kind of stuff. And it can seem kind of daunting, and it can be daunting at times because it is a challenge by definition, but it's good for you to make your brain try to work these things out. Same reason why they say it's good for the brain to learn a new language, because you're accessing parts of your brain that when you're on autopilot at home, you're not really using. You're not using the entire muscle that is your brain. And that's something that I really like about digital nomad life, because I will get I get more anxious by routine than not routine. I need, throw me some curveballs. I got to challenge me a little bit,
Yeah, I think with that, you gave kind of like one reason. For the same thing you said, there's like a couple other reasons I would like to add to that. That was not on my list, by the way, but just in theme with what you're saying here. I know for myself, when I travel to new countries, I feel, and live there, not just like, oh, let me just go on vacation for 10 days and like keep doing what I normally do, but just in a different place. But like when you really sort of live somewhere for a month or longer, for me, I know, like as you said, just navigating the simple things. When I go to a grocery store in a new place and you can't read a language and like you don't buy, like, normally if my grocery store here or I'm ordering online or whatever, like it's just the same thing all the time. I know my list, I know where it is in the store, and I know what I'm going to buy, and I eat the same thing all the time. Versus like in a new country, you're in a store and I'm like, okay, well, I don't have what I normally eat here, so what am I going to find here? Or it's like, oh, this culture eats a ton of this vegetable that I've never had before, but it seems to be everywhere in the supermarket. Like, maybe I'll try it. So you kind of like, you try new things, you add new things to your repertoire, you learn. I think also just being in different cultures and environments, you start to challenge yourself of like, even just your normal thoughts of like, oh, okay, well, this was my routine, but like maybe, oh, I see that everybody here meditates every morning. Maybe I'll try this. Maybe I'll try that. Why not? Or like everyone here is doing yoga, or everyone here is, I don't know, like just thinking in a different way, or has like, if you go to India, like everyone's living with different generations in their home. Like, is that something interesting to you? So whatever it is, I think for me, traveling to new countries for an extended amount of time and getting in the culture really allows me to like just challenge the status quo of whatever I had going into my life and whatever rules I've just sort of accepted as normal as growing up in my culture, and say like, what do I want to take away? What do I like? What do I believe? And so I add in, again, whether it's food, health, exercise, beliefs, routines, values, daily habits, whatever, like I've added in and changed so much from my travels around the world.
Yeah, exposure to new ideas is so powerful, because then that becomes part of your routine, and you might drop something else out of your routine that wasn't so good, and constantly improving yourself and challenging yourself. And the only way that you can improve and challenge yourself is to expose yourself to new stuff. By definition, you will not, if you're complacent, if you're stagnant, you will not challenge yourself. You won't get new ideas because you're not exposing yourself to new ideas. So I think that's super, super important, not just for your longevity and things I was talking about before, but just becoming more well-rounded as a person and just being more open to different stuff. It's just really pushing through that discomfort and challenging yourself. And you'd be surprised to see what you can handle.
And
there's
I feel like
a lot of challenging times, and it makes you stronger.
Yeah. For sure. And if I think about like tying it back to the title of this episode, like making you happier, I just feel like it allows you to be more you, and you get to like, you're kind of like challenging your beliefs, doing new things, challenging habits, like exposing yourself. I don't know. You just get to be like the most you from what you learn and, I don't know, pick up along the way. So I think it's pretty cool. Good one. I'm glad we like brainstorm these separately, because we both have like some overlapping, but some pretty different ones. So the next one on my list, I would say it's almost kind of like the opposite of that in a similar way. But this next one I had was the freedom to move when I don't like somewhere I am, or I don't like something, or I just need to shake something up. So even if I'm in my favorite place in the world, maybe as Jeff said, you kind of start to get complacent, or you don't like that you're in the same town every day, or you don't like, I don't know, just something happening in that town, or you don't, whatever it is. If it's like, if you're just tired of being in a city, or you're tired of being at the beach, or you're tired of being around too many people or not enough people, whatever it is, you just get to change it. And when I think back to, days when I was tied, I lived in New York City and tied to a company, a job where I had to go into an office, when I was feeling overwhelmed by New York City and I was like, I just don't like it here right now. Like, I couldn't do anything. It wasn't like, okay, let me just go in nature for a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever I need. I was like bound to that city. And there's a lot I loved about the city living there, but sometimes I needed a break from it and I couldn't take it. So I just like, as a nomad, I feel happier that I get to, it's like whatever I'm feeling, too much or too little of anything. And to some might say, like, I don't know, maybe you need to like deal with things and stay. People will say that for sure about nomads, of like, you just run away from your problems. But I think sometimes it's okay. Like, sometimes you need nature for health, or sometimes you want to be around people or new ideas. So I think it's cool. I think it makes me happier that I have the freedom to know that, like, at any moment, if I don't like something that's happening in a place, or maybe there's like a wildfire and the air isn't healthy right now, or maybe there's something weird going on with politics, whatever, like, you can leave and move and avoid those things and go to something good. Any thoughts on that? It's like a touchy one.
No, I don't think it's too touchy. I think it absolutely resonates. And it goes back to what we were saying a few weeks ago about us digital nomads don't want to be told what to do. Don't tell me what to do. Don't put me in a box. Like, don't tell me I have to live here. And you almost do it just to spite this invisible person telling you what to do. Like, I don't have to live here. I'm going somewhere else. Like, nobody told you had to live here, but yeah, go ahead. You do you.
Right.
And it feels good though. It's relieving to know, this is not for me right now. I can go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just feel the need to go and have your beach time. It's like that's available now. That's accessible at any time for you. Yeah, that's really good. And that's just a mindset, knowing that you're not trapped.
Yeah.
And that is a healthy thing. You know that you've got options. And when you put yourself in like this kind of little limited prison, like I'm stuck, it's never a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So it's a good one.
Perfect.
And just as a note, if any of these factors appeal to you, these all sound like things that would make you happier as a person, the fastest way to become a digital nomad is get a job with a company that lets you work from anywhere in the world. And if you've listened to any of our podcasts before, you'll know scouring job boards online is probably 99% of the work just to find a legitimate company that's posting a legitimate job, and the likelihood that they are actually posting a work from anywhere job is very, very low. So what we've done is over the last 3 years, we have collected, analyzed, reviewed, and written up summaries of 300 plus companies that do let you work from anywhere in the world. These companies are all fully vetted by our experts in-house. We've reviewed them based on a number of different really important factors that'll determine how good it is to work for the company. And we've all got them in an easy, sortable, filterable database that you can go through, read about what the company's about, go to their careers pages, and ideally start to quasi-stalk them, start to figure out who the players at the company are, get them on LinkedIn, start sending them messages, and ideally get you a job that'll let you become a digital nomad as soon as possible. And so to find that, you go to beachcommute.com/atlas.
All right, what's next for you?
My next one, I'm sure you got it on your list. Community.
Oh, I don't.
Really? That's surprising.
I guess I was thinking more about geographical places when I was thinking of this list.
Oh, okay. As a digital nomad, I'd say my community has increased 10, 20-fold since when I was just working in an office. Easily. Yeah. Just the amount of people that I am friends with, interact with, travel with, you name it. Just meeting new random people all the time. And out of all the things on the list, which are very, very important, mental health tied to physical health, community is one of those ones that you will always see with longevity, right? When you look at those, what do you call them? Blue zones, where people live to 100.
Yep.
There's always a common theme. They're very, very tightly knit communities, whether it's friendships, family, whatever. And as being a part of a digital nomad, that's always sticks out. And like items 1, 2, or 3 for me is how much my community has impacted me and makes me happy and makes me feel included and loved, yada yada, all those types of things. And it's immediate. Like when I first started traveling, I was like, oh, these I've got all these people all over the place now, and I feel support. And that stays with you every single day. That's in the back of your mind. That's like an aura around you that makes you feel complete, and that keeps you healthy. If you think about the times, just try to rack your brain and think about times that you have felt lonely, and think about what that's done internally to your body, the sensations that have been caused in your body when you feel lonely. It's terrible. It's like a war zone in your body. You can't sleep, you can't focus, you feel sad, you're not productive. It's just, it's like an internal wound that nobody can see. So it makes sense that when you have community and you don't have these feelings of loneliness, your insides feel way, way, way better, and you're way, way, way healthier. So that might have been, that could be tops for me, really. Maybe I should have put it in number 1. But in terms of health, I can't think of anything for me that's had a more significant impact.
Yeah, it's funny, I guess, that when I was building out my list, I was thinking of, like, geographically, like, living as a nomad, what makes me, I was thinking about moving locations, like, as an Instagram post was saying. But to your point here, if I think about nomad life, and we've talked about this before, but the community aspect has been definitely one of my favorite parts that makes me the happiest too. And it's like all the friends that we've met along the way. And it's a weird nomad, like, if you look at nomad life, and especially the way that you and I live it, maybe is different than some, and I'll talk about that for a second. But like, when Jeff and I travel, typically we are going with like groups of friends who we have met, friends that we've now had for many years of traveling. And we go and we live in like big houses with like multiple people around, which if I think about when I'm in Atlanta, I'm like, I want no one in my house. Like, I don't want to be around anyone else. It's like weird to have roommates. But for some reason, when I travel, it's like so fun to live in a house with like all these people, or like, okay, you're going to live in an apartment that's like 2 blocks from me, and you're in another apartment 2 blocks from me. And you're kind of there and rely on community. And it's not like, I feel like when I'm back home, everybody, my friends sometimes live 20, 30 minutes away. So it's not like, oh, let me just pop in for the day. It's like, hey, let's meet up for dinner 2 Wednesdays from now. Let's go on a walk next week. Let's, hang out next Saturday. And otherwise, you're not just day to day sort of like bopping around with people. Whereas in nomad life, it's like, for whatever reason, we're like, nomad, like, it's like you're going to the gym with friends, you're co-working with friends, like out to eating dinner together with friends every night. You're going on weekend trips with these people. So it makes a huge, huge difference. And I know it's always been my dream before I was nomading. And I remember like after I left college, where I lived with like 11 of my best friends in a house, and then moved to New York City, an apartment with like just one friend who I barely ever saw because we had different work schedules. And I remember always saying like, I just want to live in a compound where like maybe I have my own house, but like everybody is, all my favorite people are just around. And that's kind of what nomad life has been for me. And I know a lot of people who think about nomad life are often like, isn't it lonely? Like, you just go to these new countries all the time where you don't know anyone. And I think if you're not intentional about joining a community and building up your nomad community of friends, it can be the most lonely, terrible thing in the world, where you find yourself like across the world not knowing a single person. But if you do it with intention and build a community the way that Jeff and I have purposely done, when I'm home, I feel way lonelier than when I'm like, I just want all my friends around me at all times. It's like, it's the best life. I can't even explain it. And I miss that when I'm back home for sure.
It's got to be the top thing. I miss that. Yeah,
it's
so
everything.
Much.
And so there's so many times, like if I was like, okay, you get to go to your favorite place, like the best place I could think of, like some beach town, tropical, whatever, alone for a month. Or if I had to go to some place I hated with like 10 of our best travel friends, in a heartbeat, I would go to like with all of our favorite people, no matter where I was, because everyone would just like, it's like they make you laugh. It's fun. It's community. You're connected, and you can make a bad place great. Obviously, I'd rather have all my favorite people in a place I love also, which you can do as a nomad. But yeah, it's so important.
So what's your, I think that was my last one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think I actually kind of talked about my other one was problem solving. So we already covered that in like challenging
within
yourself
the other one.
Quo. Yeah, okay. So that one's next off. It's all you now. It's your show.
I have just like a couple quick ones. I actually can't believe you don't have this one on there, and I know you're gonna laugh when I say it. Is you avoid winter? I can't believe you don't have that one.
Winter sucks.
Winters.
Oh, so
sometimes,
depressing. Good Lord.
Yeah, I feel like I mentioned this one time before too. I don't know if it's bad. Like, okay, almost every location has either winter, which is very cold, or a rainy season for like a couple months at least, where you're sort of like forced. Like, I think that there's something to needing a winter or a rainy season, which we as nomads typically just avoid because, you know, you think about plants, it's like you need time to kind of go within, withdraw. You think about winter, you're sort of like, you're not being so social, you're sort of cozied up, you're like just, I don't know, you kind of have to go within when you're locked inside. But as nomads, we're typically, I don't know, winter also comes with like people are depressed, they're not happy, you're not getting sunlight. I don't know, it's not fun. And a lot of people will avoid rainy seasons of certain places because you're also just sort of like locked inside and you can't go out and about. That said, I feel like a lot of us as nomads tend to avoid these. So I don't know if it's good, bad, or otherwise, but as much as I can, I like to stay in the warmth. This is not scientific proven on this one, but most nomads like to be happier by avoiding winters, being in sunshine and sort of like happier environments, like eternal sunshine, 365 days a year if you want, basically. But I don't know. Maybe there's something bad to that of not sort of like going within and chilling for a little bit. But I like as a nomad that you can.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like there's a reason nature like built that in.
Wow. What about people in Hawaii? It's not built in for them.
I guess maybe they have like enough storms or rainy days or something. I don't know. That's a good point.
Well,
I don't know.
You might have something to the statement, the sweet is never sweet without the bitter. You know, you need some sort of contrast in your life to actually appreciate what you've got. Fuck contrast. I want it good all the time. Actually, I've got our weather reports. I didn't realize your winter sucks so bad in Atlanta. It's actually worse than Roanoke Park, where I live. You've got it's colder and you have slightly less daylight than we do. Probably because you're so far east. And it's like
it's not the worst. It's not like I went to school in Michigan and like lived in New York and North Lake. It's not like that, but that's real winter. Cold. But that's serious. Atlanta's mild by comparison, but still not fun for several months. So when it gets like late October, November, December, January, February, I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to be somewhere else. I want to be gone. But there is something 100%. I know. When I lived in Los Angeles for 2 years, it's like 330 days of sunshine. It's almost perfect weather year round. There was something weird to that where I was like, I just want an excuse to sit inside and like maybe watch Netflix for a day and not feel like I should be out hiking a mountain or playing beach volleyball or like watching the sunset. Sometimes you just want to like chill and do nothing. And I felt bad there because it was so beautiful every single day. And then I also didn't want to go anywhere else. So I was like, why would I leave here? It's like literal perfect weather every day. So I don't know. There's something to every now and then. But I like as a nomad, I love to like go home for Christmas and like you get Christmas spirit and cold for like a couple, like 2 weeks. Then I'm like, okay.
Hoodie weather. You want to wear a hoodie a few times a year.
Just a little bit every now and then. But like to be in the cold for like 5-6 months, it's just like, ugh. Yeah. So miserable. Anyway.
But being able to leave. Just the option to get the fuck out of there when it gets miserable.
Exactly. So I kind of tied into my last one as well.
I pulled in. It's good.
Yeah. Those were my main ones. I'll do like a quick, just like the last sort of like, I don't know, sort of bonus ones I had was the novelty of new places. I feel like there's something of just like, I don't know, just getting to explore. It's like a Christmas gift. You like land there, you're just like, ooh, like there's just a new place to explore that you just have the freedom and happiness to do as a nomad. So that's one. And number 2 was healthier food options. I don't know, I'm jaded here, but like being in the US, I just feel like everything is poisoning us in our like food supply and system. And if you go to Europe, for example, like things are just banned there that are allowed in our food and everything in the US. So I feel like sometimes just going to a different country, you can be healthier by just like the rules and regulations and food supply and water supply and things that. And then you kind of mentioned this one, but I had a little bit different spin on it. The last one I had was just sort of being, I think I'm happier because I'm forced to do inner work from traveling and like just have new ideas and viewpoints. So we sort of mentioned that before, but it just, I think travel challenges you to sort of bring up your, I don't know, like your inner stuff that you need to work on and release, that if you're home, you can just sort of like be in your routine and avoid and not be pressed to deal with things, which is harder in the short term, but ultimately I think makes people, I don't know, happier. Like a lot of nomads, I think are doing more inner work for whatever reason. Maybe it's just people who challenge themselves anyway, but those are my last little statements there.
Yeah, I think digital nomads are just kind of naturally searchers for whatever answers to something, whatever's going on out there. We're looking for the answer to it. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think most people are who've chosen this lifestyle because you're just, you don't like accept the status quo. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. You enjoyed our spin on like, we don't know about this Instagram statement of like moving can make you 2 times happier. I actually really do believe it based on my own experience, but I hope you enjoyed just understanding some of the reasons that Jeff and I have found made us happier as nomads, has made our friends happier as nomads, and maybe how you can just have a happier, healthier life simply by getting a remote job and having the freedom to, whether you stay in your hometown most of the time, but just leave sometimes, but having the freedom to go off and live in other environments, nature, bodies of water. I like the beginning of all of our scientific woo. But yeah, any last words, Jeff?
If you've got any questions or comments, shoot us a note at hello@beachcommute.com. That includes podcast suggestions. We love getting those, and oftentimes they will actually get turned into podcasts. And yeah, we're always looking to hear from you. Other than that, we will see you again next week.